Welcome to Lessons That Last, where a researcher and a teacher talk about what it means to make a lasting impact on students' lives. They unpack the stories former students shared about their memorable teachers and discuss how we can all make a greater impact on the people in our lives. Here's Julie and Laura.
Hello, and welcome back to the Lessons That Last podcast. I'm Julie Hassan, professor, researcher, and with me is my favorite teacher,
Laura Estes-Swilly, reader, writer, and very happy teacher.
And we are nearing ready for teachers to head back to school in your district. Are you feeling ready?
So I had a weird summer. So maybe I don't feel ready in the traditional sense, but on Tuesday, my husband, who's on vacation, and our nephew, who's visiting, are going up to my school to work in my classroom. I'm going to use some muscle while I have it. And I think that has gotten me a little more excited than I would be thinking about it coming. We go back on the 2nd. So not this coming week, but the following. But since I'm going to be there on Tuesday, I'm thinking about like how I want to do my room. How do I want the flow and all of that? So I think that makes me feel kind of ready. Yeah.
Are you doing a theme in your room this year, or a color scheme?
I have to tell you,
I come from elementary where, we always have.
Yes. And I always have something going on. And in my classroom, my big symbol is a peacock, because peacocks fan their feathers to get attention. They fan their feathers to show how beautiful and handsome they are. And so that's the thing we talk about. Like, it's time, if you're writing an essay, you got to fan your feathers, show them how beautiful you are and all the things that you know. So over the years, I've collected a lot of peacocks. A number of my students have painted beautiful peacocks for me. I have this really cool one that's made of paper. It sits. And so peacocks, and then last year, at the end of the year, I had a student, love her. She was such a challenge, but then she decided she loved me. So it was good. And she said, you need to do better in this room. And I was like, explain, help me understand. And she said, well, I don't know what you've got going here. That rug, and then the black and white, you got a couple peacocks. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take that under advisement. And what I realized looking around is when COVID came and we were back in school very quickly in Florida in 2020, they had this cleaning that they had to do. I don't know if all the schools did this. If someone in my classroom had COVID, they came in with this crazy, noxious cleaner that would ruin everything in its path. It would ruin the picture inside a picture frame. And so I brought all of my most precious things home, and I sort of redecorated to give myself some cheer and happiness. But it was temporary. And now it's this mix of the temporary and the old trying to come together. So it's time for something new. So it's interesting that you asked that, because I really took what she said to heart, and I looked around and I was like, this is a post-COVID classroom, and I don't want to be post-COVID anymore. So we're going to change some things.
Do a little refresh.
Yes.
Nice. Now in high school, are they like elementary people where they're trying to get in halfway through the summer and the principal's like, no, you can't come in yet? And then the poor custodians are still trying to wax the floor, and you've got these teachers peeking in to see if they can get in there. Is my room ready yet?
Oh, that's a lot. No, but also we don't do as much as elementary. We don't have to organize the same amount of things. When I look at, like when Kaylin started teaching and I looked at how she was preparing for her room, I didn't have to have all of that. I don't need all of that. And so I understand why elementary teachers do it. I remember going in the summer with you and putting denim on your big giant bulletin boards that would like span the whole room. I have a little bulletin board. It's fine. I'll put something on it. Usually I get inspired the day before open house and put up something cool. So it's not as necessary, and but usually department heads or coaches who are going to be really busy during pre-planning will come in ahead of time and work in their rooms.
Okay, so y'all don't have the word wall and the job wall and the schedule posted
and this is the day of the week and this is the date. You know,
calendar patterns and
no winter, or this is
and
spring.
then you have to decide: are we going to be frogs or bees?
Right.
Or
Exactly. So it's I think in a lot of ways it's a lot easier for a high school teacher. Because we don't have to do all of that.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not sure in elementary we really have to do all that. But
Kinda.
But we do. And they are calling halfway through July.
I bet.
Can I pick up my key? Can I pick up my key? No. No.
Right. And I emailed my principal and said, this is what I want to do. Is this okay? And he said, sure, make sure I know when you're coming so I can get your room unlocked. There was no question that I was going to get my key. I'm not getting my key. He's getting my room unlocked. So they're still pretty, careful about letting us in the building. I don't really know why, because honestly, I never investigated it. Never wondered if I could go early.
For us, it was two things. One, it was floor waxing because we had those like terracotta tile kind of floors. The other was once they come in and you're an administrator and you're still placing kids in classes and planning and talking to new parents and having IEP meetings. Once they come in, and I love teachers and I love my teachers, they want things.
Right. They need your attention.
Yes. And they want to talk to you. And I want to see your vacation pictures. But I've got 3 IEP meetings for new kids coming. And so, it's sort of the end of tackling all those things. And you want to do that before you officially open it up so that you can give people your full attention and answer their questions and get what they need. But the custodian would beg, like, please don't let them in yet, because he would also get, can I use the cart? Can you help me carry this?
Exactly. I totally understand why they don't want us there, but I've never had really a reason to want to be there terribly early. But this year's a little different because I have this injury to my ankle. And so me carrying desks and standing on chairs is not the best idea. So we can go in and do a little bit of that and I'll feel good and actually feel like I'm ready to go. And so I'm excited about that.
That will be good. And our helpers are all grown up. Like
I know.
Connor used to come and set up everybody's computers. And Caitlin would come and do everybody's bulletin boards before she had her own to do.
Yeah.
So you got to find the teacher friends who still have the teenagers who will work for the Chick-fil-A sandwich.
Right. And my niece, Sophie, will come anytime in pre-planning and anytime in post-planning to help me. She's still right here and she's only a year out of high school. So she definitely is willing to help. But I thought I've got some wide shoulders here. Why not get them busy?
Get the muscle. Get the muscle in there. So as an experienced teacher, do you still feel anxious when first day of school, first week of school comes?
Absolutely. I think 2 weeks ago, I had my first back to school dream.
Oh no.
I did. And it was crazy. I was shocked. There were students in my classroom, totally unprepared. Didn't know who was coming, no rosters, but I needed to do attendance. And I was like that bumbling sort of movie teacher who doesn't know what they're doing. And I was like, I can't believe I'm having this already. So absolutely, because I've already started. That was the first, but I've had another one since then. The night before school starts, I won't be able to sleep. I don't know, it's exciting. I love a new year, a whole new start. Feels like everything is clean and fresh, including me and including the kids. I haven't made anybody mad yet. So it's an excitement, I think, that keeps me from sleeping.
Okay. Or the to-do list. I know all the things. Even when you're experienced, there's still... I remember being a new principal and dreaming like several nights in a row that everybody was in class. It was the first day of school, and I got a call that there's a tiger in the hall.
Oh, yes. I think I remember that.
And we're in Florida. Like, there may have been an alligator, but we don't have a lot of like free range tigers. But
Wow.
I had to run and like try to get the tiger out of the hall.
Right, because that makes sense, Julie.
It does.
You're going to take care of the tiger.
And I remember like running in my dream, running down the hall, and then you would just see like its tail go around the corner,
and you couldn't
trying to find it.
Oh, yes.
If any of our listeners do that dream analysis kind of work, you can let me know what.
Okay, so dream analysis is just reading symbolism. And obviously, since you could only see the tail, there was something big and you couldn't get to it and you were feeling overwhelmed. And it makes sense since you were a new principal.
Right.
And everything probably feels a little dangerous at that point. I can't imagine. I never aspired to be an administrator. I like the small world. But I can imagine the overwhelming sense of responsibility and how much is in your hands and how much you could possibly feel like, danger. That this could be dangerous if I'm not good at this. Right. This could be dangerous if I drop something. So I think your tiger makes sense, but I'm glad you got rid of him.
Me too. He just disappeared. And all the things you can't control, both as a teacher and an admin at the beginning of the year, you just don't know what's coming in terms of students, parents, any other safety issues, things with the building, you try to be prepared for everything, but you can't. So.
Well, when you said that, I was thinking about how unprepared we were when it became a TikTok sensation to, what did they call it? Devious licks. Yes. And we were not prepared for that at all, for bathrooms to be torn apart or exit signs to be hung on until the cables burst and things to be stolen. And like, we were not prepared for that.
Because, let's think about the logic of that. If you're going to do something that's really going to get you in trouble, you should film it.
You should.
And broadcast it to the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Imagine kids. All the street cred, Julie. Imagine.
Right. But there's no way you can deny doing it because everyone has seen the video. So maybe they're I don't know. I can't understand it. I really can't.
Well, you can't. And I can't because we've moved past teenage brain, but teenage brain does weird stuff.
It's reptilian.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And so, you're right. We can't be ready for everything because we have no idea what's coming.
I mean, when we did dumb things, we did our best, if caught, to deny said things.
Yes. Leave no trace.
No
trace.
I would swear to goodness, I did not see Laura Estes do whatever. I know nothing.
And they would believe you.
Well, yeah. We got away with some things we never would have recorded ourselves.
No. Well, you want to say that and you want
to. But we didn't have the technology. So
I don't know that it's true. I don't know that we wouldn't have recorded ourselves a lot. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have recorded myself doing the things that could have gotten me
in big trouble.
Way in trouble. Right. Grounded, not able to go out and live my life.
Right.
I'd like to think that I was smarter than that. But I don't think that we can make those judgments because we didn't have it. We didn't have to worry about it.
And thank goodness we did not.
Yes.
Yep. Which is a whole other anxiety about. So I'm thinking about back to school as a young person.
Yes.
Either elementary, middle, or high. Did you get anxiety when back to school time came?
No, I was always very excited for back to school, which is maybe why right now, even, I don't get a lot of anxiety about going back to school. I get excited about going back to school. I was always excited to start something new, to meet my new teacher, or teachers, to like get into what am I going to learn? How am I going to grow? And I know that makes me sound academic, but I wasn't.
I know you had a new outfit.
I had to show all my new clothes. There was always something exciting about going back to school. And I honestly, every year, I was going to turn over a new leaf. I was going to be organized. I was going to get good grades. I was going to take this on. And so it always felt like something great was coming. And I would have all the folders and the trapper keeper and all of the organizational things that I needed. And this was going to be the year. And so it was always exciting for me.
So you didn't have like, I, as a person who has a lot of anxiety, loved school, but first day of school, like stomach ache, so anxious about all kinds of things. Who's going to be in my lunch period? Will I know anybody? Who will I sit with? Will I be able to get from this class to this class? You know, like all the things. I would just worry about all the things. And I remember my mom saying, "Oh, your tummy hurts. You're probably just excited." Like trying to say like, if we just reframe this.
Right. We'll just put this in a positive spin.
And I'll be like, no, trust me.
Well, so for the first 7 years of my education, I went to a very small private school, and I knew who was going to be in my class. I already knew them. We'd all been to each other's houses. I didn't have any of those worries. When you were talking about where am I going to sit and how will I get from one class to the other, it made me think about my first day of 8th grade, which was my first day in a public school. So we were at a junior high. It wasn't small, right? It was pretty hefty size,
pretty big school.
Mm-hmm. And lots of students. I had a class in a portable, so I know that it was a big school. And I'm sure I was nervous walking into that. But I walked into my homeroom, and there was a boy I grew up with, and I sat behind another boy, and he turned around and he said, "Hi, I'm Sean. You're new." And became my friend. And I felt secure and calm immediately because he was telling me what to do. He was telling me how this world works because he was of that world. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, great, here I'm comfortable with Tommy. And here's Sean, my new connection to this new world. And there went any worries that I had.
Oh, that's so good. See, I knew all kinds of kids, and I was still like, and when we were in 8th grade, my older brother was at that school, still like all the worries. In fact, when we went to 8th grade, my mom was teaching.
Yeah, she was. Your mom was right there.
My whole family was there, and I was still freaked out. So that's just me. You know, I think kid to kid, we process those kinds of things differently. Yes. I'm a worrier. Always have been. Also, that's the tiger in the hall.
I didn't know. That's true. I didn't know what I didn't know walking into 8th grade. So I couldn't have all of those fears. I had just like a general, I'm nervous, this is new, but you knew what you didn't know.
Yes.
And so I could see where you would have had more anxiety. I was probably very nervous my first day of pre-planning my first year of school.
Teaching.
Yes.
Yes.
That was a knuckler.
And you know, that may be like one case where I'm totally anxious still, but I may have been a little less anxious than you because I grew up with a teacher.
Yeah.
So that may have been one circumstance where you may have had more sort of unknowns than me.
That makes sense. I didn't even have anyone to ask, what should I wear? I should have asked you because I'm sure your mother told you, but I didn't even know what to wear. And I remember the night before talking to our friend Kristen, and she was saying, okay, what are you going to wear? And I was like, girl, I don't know. Should I wear this? Should I wear that? Like, we just didn't know what was coming.
Well, back in the day in elementary, you wore a jumper dress and some kids' tennis shoes.
Right.
And if it was the first day of school, you probably wore the jumper dress with the applique school bus or apple.
Yes. I was thinking an ABC
Could
or
be.
an apple.
Could be. With your white kids' tennis shoes. I mean, it was, and your ponytail with your scrunchie. I mean, there's no thinking about that in elementary. High school, a little different.
It is different.
I wonder if I still have all those jumpers somewhere. Maybe I'll send them to Caitlin.
She doesn't want, I can promise you that she does not want those jumpers.
My mom,
your fashionista is not interested in the plaid jumpers.
My mom could make a beautiful quilt out of all those.
That would be so cute.
90s plaid jumpers.
But when you think about the first day of school for kids, they're having those same questions too. Unless they have a lot of friends in the neighborhood, they don't know what everyone else is going to be wearing. Like, how did styles shift since May? What am I supposed to be wearing? What's cool with hair? Even, you know what I mean? Like, all of those anxieties, those are with them as well.
Yeah. Plus all the teacher expectations. In elementary too, especially because you just a lot of times have just one, and you're going to be with that one all day, all year. Am I going to like my teacher? Is my teacher going to like me? What are the expectations? How is this classroom community going to run? Yeah. Are we going to have fun? Am I going to learn things? Are
we going to laugh?
Yes.
Yes. And I say that to my students who obviously are almost adults every year on the first day of school. I know what you're here today to find out. What do I need? In general, where are we headed? And is she a decent person? Are we going to laugh a little? Does she care? I know that's why you're here. Let's dig in. And they always are nodding with me. Oh my gosh, yes, those are exactly the things we need to know.
So it brings us to our sweet story today. I love this story because teachers are so brilliant, and sometimes there's such a simple move that can check a lot of boxes. And in this case, Mrs. Gladden, a fourth grade teacher, brilliant, simple move, and still remembered many years later by Chloe. So would you read Chloe's story about Mrs. Gladden?
Absolutely. I always had mixed emotions at the beginning of a new school year, simultaneously excited and nervous. I wondered if I would like my teacher, if my teacher would like me, and if I would enjoy learning with my new classmates. I remember the first day of fourth grade because my teacher, Mrs. Gladden, had a creative way of addressing my wonderings and fears. That day started like every other first day. We put our supplies away, introduced ourselves, and learned about the rules and procedures. But just before lunch, Mrs. Gladden pulled out the question box, and she gave us each a few index cards. We could write any question about our new teacher or new class and drop it in the box. We didn't have to put our name on our questions, so I didn't worry so much about whether my question would seem silly to others. At the end of the day, Mrs. Gladden patiently answered every question in the box. We learned that she never yells, except at her son's football games. We learned she tries not to give too much homework, and she rotates the classroom helpers. Looking back, I realized that I learned more about her from her choice to elicit questions and provide reassurance than I did from any answer she gave. I'm a teacher now, and I bring out my own question box every first day of a new school year.
So stinking brilliant.
That's so great. Mrs. Gladden, brave,
Yes.
Brave and brilliant. And same for Chloe. She's doing it too.
Right. Because she remembered how it alleviated her fears.
Yeah, so comforting.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, like, as a teacher, if you got something inappropriate or a wacky, surely in fourth grade, you got some wacky questions.
Sure.
And in high school, maybe if you don't put your name on it, something inappropriate. And then you just find a way to say, oh, this looks like an individual question. Maybe I'll answer this one later. Or I can't read this handwriting. I'm going to have to put this away for a minute and try.
Exactly. And so you have to have those strategies at the ready if you're going to do something like the question box. And then you know what the kids are worried about. You know what is important to them before the first day is over. I love that.
And chances are, if one is worried about it, there are more worried about it. Mm-hmm. But I love the part in the story where she said her willingness to do that told us more than any answer. So if you have a teacher who, I always talk to teachers about what message we send through our instructional choices. Kids learn so much more about our expectation and the way we feel about them by our instructional choices than anything we say, any pretty banner or poster we put up. And the message she was sending is, I acknowledge that you probably are a little nervous and that you may be afraid to ask a question. And I'm not afraid of any question. So I'm going to give you this sort of venue to ask what you need in a way that doesn't embarrass you. And I will alleviate that anxiety. That's a powerful message.
It is. And don't you think you would walk away from that as a fourth grader feeling like this teacher is completely open? She's open with us.
Yes. And also that she's not making assumptions about what I'm worried about or what I need. She's humble enough to know that she may not know. And she shouldn't assume. And so she's going to ask me. Like, there's something about that too, because there are a lot of people in positions of power, like teachers, who assume they know what somebody else is worried about or needs, right? Because they're in this position. But there's some sense of humility about asking.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it says a lot about what happened in that classroom for the rest of the year, because there were 179 more days that Chloe didn't talk about in her story, but that she adopted the practice tells you what happened those other 179 days.
That this was, Miss Gladden was a model.
Yes.
That she wanted to emulate. Yes. And then you wonder, did Miss Gladden sort of weigh in on her decision to become a teacher? I kind of suspect, yes.
Absolutely. I mean, any teacher who's telling you a story about the teacher they remember is telling you why they became a teacher in a lot of ways.
Right. I do think it's powerful as we get nearer to the first day of school that we remember ourselves, the age of the kids we teach, and that we just kind of think about what we were worried about, how we felt. And
so, quick question. I can't imagine a question box just because of time and space and the amount of kids who come through my door. Like, I'm going to have 40 minutes with them. But what about you? Is that something you could do with your graduate students that would be purposeful?
I always send out a Google Doc. Put all your questions on the Google Doc, because mine aren't going to write something inappropriate.
Right.
They're adults and most of them are teachers. I don't know. Some of them might write something funny because they are pretty funny. But put it all on a Google Doc. Like, write all your questions in. Let's do this, And if I don't answer it in class by the end of the first class period, I'm going to check it at the end of that period and say, oh, we didn't talk about this, this, and this, or this is coming. Hold on, you don't need to know right now. Because sometimes they want to know everything right away. And we're going to worry about first things first, and it's coming, and don't you worry. Because I think for grad students, when I put myself in that position, a lot of it is, am I going to be able to juggle all of this?
Right.
Am I going to be able to have a life? Always also, because they're grad students, am I going to get an A? What's
or
it going to take?
How am I going to get an A?
How am I going to get an A? How do you grade? Are you fair? You know, it's about their performance, but also how they're going to navigate all the different things they have to do. It's typically that. And I would say 99% of questions on that Google Doc are about those kinds of things. Are we going to have to do group work?
Yes. That's a big one. I'm sure in college, that's a huge question.
Because logistically it's challenging, you know, and are you going to give us class time if we are, like those kinds of things. But I imagine even for your high schoolers, there are some of those similar questions. Are we going to have to do group work? Probably.
And can I choose my own
group? That is the same as grad students, by the way. Like, will you let me choose?
And I think it's for the same reason. They don't want to be stuck having to do all the work. And if they can choose their partners, they will choose wisely.
Right. And the challenge with that, and this is probably a whole nother story and a whole nother podcast, is then you get all the leaders in one group.
Right.
And so sometimes I use that question as a teachable moment for my grad students who are all teachers.
Exactly.
Let's talk about
the value. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, what are the pros and cons of this? And can we come to some kind of compromise? Did you choose a partner and then I'll put two partners together or something?
Yeah. But I think the questions in Mrs. Gladden's box, even though it was fourth grade, probably had answers like that as well. Let's talk about this. Why would it be important to do it this way? Why would it be important to do it that way? Is there value in doing it both ways at different times? They had to have those conversations because fourth graders, I mean, they're pretty much expert in elementary school, right? They're almost the top of the line, and they know the lay of the land. So they might ask some of those types of questions as well. And that would have given, even in a fourth grade classroom, the opportunity to have that type of conversation with the kids.
It's true. I'm imagining the question box for fourth grade, and I'm guessing, because I was not as brilliant, so I did not do this then, that many of them revolved around recess.
Snacks.
Can I bring a snack? Mm-hmm. Show and tell.
Homework, reading, like reading time. Am I going to have to read every night?
Maybe. Field trip.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Field trip.
Field trips. I would say there weren't a ton about academics in fourth grade. I could be wrong.
So, and that tells you how much I understand about fourth graders.
Yeah.
None. Because to me, I would think they would want to know about homework.
They probably want to know, are we going to have homework every night?
Am I going to have to do
a reading log?
The reading track, whatever the reading track is. Are we going to have time to read in class? Kind of tight. Well, that would have been me because I was going to say.
Am I going to get in trouble for reading in class?
Exactly, because that was me in fourth grade. Exact. So yeah, and the logistics questions. How often do we have PE? When do we go to music? Mm-hmm. Which probably would have already been covered by the time they opened the box, which would then be great because, hey, look, you asked this question. Who knows the answer? Because we already talked about it, kind of thing.
Yeah, a little review at the end of the first day in some cases. I just think it's such a great strategy. So as our listeners and you and me and my grad students are all heading back in the next few weeks, it's certainly something to think about. How can we alleviate their fears and put in something that messages them that we want their questions, that we value their feedback, and that we're humble enough to know what we don't know about them.
I love it.
I love it too. So I think that's a great place to wrap and say thank you, teachers, for listening to another episode of the Lessons That Last podcast. We wish you a fabulous end of summer. Let your principal finish getting their work done before you start knocking on the window and asking for your key, but we get it. So great summer ending. Wishing you the best year ever, teachers.
Bye, friends. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you will subscribe to the Lessons That Last podcast wherever you listen. Give us a rating too, which will help other listeners find us. And don't forget to visit chalkandchances.com for more stories. You can also find more information on Julie's research in books. While you're there, take the quiz to find out what kind of memorable teacher you are. I took it and was surprised by what I found. I think you'll find good food for thought. Let us know about your quiz results. We hope you will meet us here each week and bring a friend to share the conversation.